Welcome to the Writer Tribe Talk Show with your host, Elsa Kurt. Here's the place we talk about all things writing, publishing, and promoting your book. Today, I get to talk to the one and only Jeffrey James Higgins. Now, if you don't know that name, then you must not have been listening or watching me over the past, I don't know, year or so. I've been kind of slightly obsessed with citing Jeffrey James Higgins' article in what I saw it first in Law Enforcement Today, and it is one of the most concise, brilliant articles I've read in a long time about the topic of systemic racism in policing. I realized, oh my God, I should have him on the show. Obviously, if he would be willing to come on the show. And guess what? He was willing to come on the show. So that is my guest today. We'll talk about his latest book that he has out. And you're going to discover, like I did, what an incredible story this man has. So stay tuned. Hey, family, if you're looking for the perfect gift for the reader in your life, why not check out one of my books? They're all available on Amazon and most major online book retailers, as well as elsakurt.com. I will change gears slightly. I want to talk about your books. So I was very, very excited to realize that you are a very accomplished author. You have a new book out. It is called, hang on, I have it here, Unseen. Evil Lurks Among Us. This book looks so good. It is literally, so, you know, I don't know about you, but I have like my TBR list, my to be read list, and I just go down the list, and I have like a fiction book that I'm reading and a nonfiction book that I read. So I usually have two books going on basically at once. I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean. And yours is the next fiction book up, and I'm having such a hard time now getting through the one that I'm reading. It's good, but I want to get on to this one. It is I'm going to let you talk about it because I could just go on forever. But it's Dexter crossed with, what is it again?
I call it Dexter meets Homeland, right?
Yes.
So I've used my law enforcement experience. I've been in lots of violent encounters over the years, and I've worked a lot of terrorism cases, you know, over my career. So it's about a rookie homicide detective. So he's been on the force a few years. He was an economist, and he lost his father in the Boston bombing, the Boston Marathon bombing. And so he catches his first homicide, and it turns into a string of murders. So he's trying to prove that he's worthy of the badge and not just playing it cop. And he uses some of his economic theory as a rational way to approach, you know, his cases. And he's going up against a guy who's you know, right from the beginning, who's a vigilante, right? So the two of them kind of going back and forth between the antagonist and the protagonist, and so the book talks a lot about vigilantism, and, you know, when, if ever, is it justified, and how do you deal with things when the rule of law is tenuous, and it's about a radical Islamic infiltration. So wow. I'm lucky. I have a secret weapon. Now I've done a lot of terrorism cases with radical Islamists. But my wife is one of the world's leading experts in the Muslim Brotherhood and
wow.
Student. So I sort of have an inside track here.
Wow. That's very, very cool.
Coming out in March called The Secret Apparatus. You've got to get this book, by the way. You should have her on the show.
Absolutely. Please, great. Yes.
She's a good guest to have. Just her personal story alone will blow you away.
Oh, I would love to have her on the show. Yeah.
Nonfiction is coming out with Post Hill Press in March. So my book is a fictionalized account, but dealing with real world things that are happening. Like everything that I say that's happening is actually happening, right? So it's sort of a way through culture and entertainment to inform people about things that are provably going on as we speak. So
I was going to ask you how much of this is fiction imitating real life here, and I got my answer. There's a lot of parallels here. Then obviously you had so much experience to draw from for this. Yeah.
The underlying terrorist conspiracy is real, and then the vigilante thing and the others. There's many subplots in this book, and there's complex characters. It's getting really good editorial reviews, so I hope you like it.
I know I will.
I have 2 more books outlined in the series. If it sells well and people want more, I've had some readers asking for it. I'll do those next.
That's awesome.
Here we go.
That's right. Hold it up. Yes, I love it. It looks so, so good. I
And
honestly, you
this
had
was
me
my
at
first
Dexter.
one, Furious.
I want to ask you about that one too, because that sounds like a true thriller here. I'm gonna read a quick little piece of the blurb here. Trapped on a storm-damaged yacht, a grieving woman must conquer her worst fears and fight for her life in a story described as The Shining on a yacht. Oh my God, this sounds so good. It's on the
Yeah,
and now it's
that was fun. That's a
yeah,
psychological thriller. So Unseen is a crime thriller. They're both
okay.
thrillers, and Furious is more of a psychological thriller. Though it's this woman, her husband takes her on this cruise across the Indian Ocean as a way to break her out of her depression, and then just
Mhm.
really bad things happen. But it just won the gold medal from readers' favorites, and it's had some really positive response back. I'm so happy that readers are enjoying it.
Outstanding. Congratulations on that. That's really, really awesome.
Thank
They sound like such great books. So I'm really excited to read them. And as a fellow author, I know how much we value reviews, so I will make sure to review them after. On what's your preference? Amazon, Goodreads? Do you have a preference? Do you care
I'm on
where?
all of them. I
Okay.
found that but I think Amazon's selling 70% of the digital books now, and
Okay.
about 50% of all books. So I always ask people to just leave a review or just rate it on Amazon,
Yep.
because that gives you that third party, verification that it's good.
Yes.
And so I've got over 400 reviews in the first few months. So it's
I
doing.
saw that. That is fantastic. They are hard to come by, man. So that is so good.
Well,
Now,
you
let me,
always feel
so,
bad, right? Asking
oh
readers,
God.
I know you bought
Yes.
my book and enjoyed it. Now would you go do some homework and
Yeah,
review it
could you do one more thing for
for me?
me? It's the hardest thing, but we have to do it. And I generally don't, so here's the irony. I don't read reviews. I ask for them, but I don't read them. So just to preserve my own ego. So far they're good. So far it's been good. I think I had one person call me pretentious or technically call my writing pretentious. But she only read I think she only read like the prologue or something and decided from there. So I was like, all right, well, you can't please everyone, but
Yeah,
it's pretty
sometimes you get
funny.
fight. I did get a 1-star review, and the person said it's because a man should never write from a woman's point of view. I was like, well, it's fiction. It's it's
Yeah.
it's
And you don't make the rules, lady. Or guy. Maybe it was a guy who felt that way. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty funny. So readers can be very interesting. So let me ask you, author to author, how long does it take you to write a novel specifically, one of your novels? Do you
I'm,
have like a
yeah, I'm pretty fast. I write the first draft usually in about 4 to 6 weeks. I do NaNoWriMo every year, and that's a
oh
month,
yeah.
National Novel Writing Month in November, and I'll usually write like
Hmm.
75 or 80,000 words in that month, and then I'll spend another couple weeks adding more to it, and and doing a structural edit. But then it takes me several months to edit it. Then I go through beta readers. I bounce parts of it off my critique group. Then it's finding the right agent to pitch it, and then going through publishers, and going through an editorial process with the publishers. So like from actually writing it to getting it out is usually a couple of years, but
Yeah.
I write the book, with all the editing is probably about 4 months.
Yeah. That's funny. Same range. Yeah. That's funny. People are always amazed when we say that, but the rule is, and I'm sure you abide by it too, is that you have to treat it like it's the 9 to 5 job, and you have to be consistent. And when I tell people, they're like, "Wait a minute, you sit from 9 to 5 and just write?" Well, not exactly, but not too far off from that either. When I'm committed to, I set a deadline and commit to it, and when I do that, it's the 2,000 words a writing session, and then it's done before you know it.
I do that too. The word counts are great. When I'm doing a first draft, it's 2,000 words a day minimum. I usually get that done in a few hours. And then once you have books out, then you realize you end up spending 80% of your time on the business of writing, right? Trying to
Yes.
get reviewers, trying to get into
So
bookstores and libraries,
right.
get entering it into contests and doing ads, and on and on and on. Like
Yeah.
it can suck up all of your time. So I try to do a little bit of everything. I've got 2 more books. I got a nonfiction book, Blood and Powder, which is about I was at the World Trade Center on 9/11. It was from that moment to pushing my agency into counterterrorism, and then going to Afghanistan, and then doing the first narco-terrorism case. So that's sort of the arc for it. That's out to publishers now. I've got some interest from a couple publishers who are looking at it real seriously right now. And then I have a small town murder mystery that takes place in the little town of Harvard, Massachusetts, where I grew up. And that's just went out to publishers like a couple weeks ago. So
fantastic. You have got some great stuff on the horizon. So are you doing any book signing events? Are you touring at all for any of these? And if so, where can people find you next?
That's a great question. I wish I had looked it up before. Yeah, I've been doing like writing conferences and things. I just did Creatures, Crimes, and Creativity in Maryland. I've got a couple local things. I'm in the DC area, so I've got a couple in Virginia. There's the Fredericksburg Book Festival coming up in a few weeks in October, and then there's another festival in Richmond that I'll be going to. And
nice.
I've been doing some online events as well, which I find are kind of easier.
Yeah, they're very easy. I know I've grown very accustomed to living via Zoom here, and for stuff like this is it's fantastic because we can be in any part of the country, any part of the world really, and set up an interview, and it's perfect. Whereas otherwise it would be impossible, unless you're flying all over the place. But yeah, I'm not minding this. I'm an introvert. I don't know about you, but I'm an introvert. So, when I do all of my peopling, my extroverting stuff, I like to retreat to, home base here.
I don't know if I'm an introvert or an extrovert. I love people and I love hanging out with them, but then sometimes I don't. And if
You're a extroverted introvert? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, but it's helpful. Like if I do a TV appearance, if I go to like CNN or something, that's like the whole day. You have to get there and you're waiting and prepping, and then you do your thing and then you're back. As opposed to this, I mean, this is nice. Like I'm trying. My next thing is, and it's on my list of 700 things I have to get done this week. But I want to start reaching out to book clubs and seeing if they'd like to do. I'd love to be able to do that, and if people like the book, sign a few copies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, those are great. They're great fun. Those book clubs are a blast. They're terrific.
I just,
really
we're writers, so we're readers first, right? That's how we knew we wanted to write, because we really
exactly. Yeah, I knew pretty early on when I couldn't get my nose out of a book, ever, basically, that was my lane. It took me a long time to actually start it and do it for real, but yeah, I knew it early on for sure.
How old were you when you knew you were going to be a writer?
Oh, well, I convinced myself that I was a writer at like age 10, but I didn't actually take myself seriously until I was 42. So it was a long gap. I was spent a lot of time being a mommy, a stay-at-home mom, and then they had the audacity to grow up and not need me to do that anymore. And I had to figure out what I was going to do when I grew up.
I mean, I've talked to writers on these forums who started in their 70s. And it's like, great, maybe you're not going to write 70 books when you start that late, but you can write a bunch of them.
Absolutely.
Everyone you talk to is like, oh, I'm going to write a book, or I wanted to do this, or I want to. And then sometimes I feel bad because I tell them about the business and the numbers. The numbers are terrible, by the way.
Terrible.
The average traditionally published author with the big 5 sells less than 5,000 books per title in a lifetime, like per book, right? Less than 5,000.
Right.
And they make, I think it was the Authors Guild did the survey. The number was like around $12,000 a year that the average full-time writer's making from writing. Like it's just, the numbers are terrible. So and then just trying, like I've had a couple agents, I've been lucky enough to get them, but the chance of even getting an agent is, I mean, it's like 1 in 10,000 or something,
Yes.
And then getting published after you get the agent's not even a guarantee, So the numbers are awful, but I always feel like they need the reality check. But what I tell them is the difference between people who want to write and writers sit down and write, So like, how many times have you heard this? I'm going to write, when I finish or after it's always something has to come first and then I'll write. Well, then you're not.
Yes.
But if you sit down today and start writing it, guess what? You just became a writer.
Exactly. You are one step further than somebody who says that they want to write. If you're
Right.
doing it, and that's the first thing, I actually mentor and coach aspiring authors, and and they're already talking about, they haven't even written the first word, and they're talking about when they publish. And I said, whoa, honey, you got to write first. You can't publish a book that's not written. So sit down and write the book.
No, that's good
But
advice. And just honestly, just learning the craft. Like I always knew I wanted to be a writer, and I worked as a journalist. I was a reporter for years, and then I got into law enforcement, and I was doing, different kind of writing, right? Intelligence reports, like very different.
sure.
I used to write a lot as a special agent, but it was very
Hmm.
different. So coming out, I was like, oh, great. I read all the time. I'm going to write. It took me years. I retired in beginning of 2017. And
Hmm.
it took me years to really get my craft up to where I started feeling
Hmm.
good about it. And I read, I probably read 3 or 4 craft books a year, and I've been doing that for
Yes.
years, So I get
Hmm.
dozens of these. I watch podcasts, I listen to other authors, I go to writing conferences, I have a critique group. I bet like you have to do
Yeah.
all that, and it can still take you forever to actually. And quite frankly, you're always getting better if you're doing it right.
Yes, that
Like
is so true.
I'll go through and I'll edit a book. And by the time I finish editing it, I feel like I'm a better writer than when I start at the edit. And then I go
Hmm.
back and I find more stuff. It's like unending.
Yes. Yeah, I've gone back to some of my, first work that I put out, that when I put it out, I thought it was really great. I was really, really proud of myself. And then, each time I go back to it, I'm like, oh, that can be improved. That can be improved. And, it's an endless cycle. I don't think there's ever any such thing as truly being satisfied with your own work,
Right.
especially as time goes by, because like you said, you learn more about the craft, you grow as a writer, and, you know how to do things better. So yeah, it's great and terrible.
I'll tell you, I know I'm done when I literally can't look at it anymore. Like, and I'll set it aside and come back to it. Like I usually set it aside for a few weeks when I'm done. And then I
Right.
see all these, and by the way, print it out on white paper because your brain actually processes it differently than on a computer. And then I
Yes.
read it out loud, which, I sound like a
Yes.
lunatic. Sometimes I'll go for walks and I'll be reading this thing out loud because you want to hear the cadence and you catch all kinds of things when you're actually speaking. And then,
Yes.
so I do all that, but you just, if you just keep doing that, and then eventually
Hmm.
you're like, okay, I've done this 30 times. I can't,
Right.
I can't, I'll start and I'm like, I can't get through page 1. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
it's done.
Right. Yeah, when you're so over it, when you can, when the words back and forth, backwards, upside down, all around, and yeah, that's true. I've gotten to that point with each one of my books. I've finally just said, I'm so sick of you. And that's the send off. I'm so sick of you. I gotta send you out. You gotta go.
Can
And
I
it's
give
always
you
hard.
I don't know if
But
you use this, but I'll give you a tip, Pro Writing Aid. Do you ever use
I
that
love
software?
Pro Writing Aid.
It's
Yes.
really good because it basically you open your documents, and I use Scrivener is like what I write all my stuff in, but
Oh yeah.
I use Pro Writing Aid. You can open a Word document or you can actually write in it, and then it has like 15 reports or something, 15, 18 reports,
Yes.
and
Like
some of the
everything
things in
under the
there,
sun.
yeah, but you won't catch them by yourself, like it's
Right.
because it's your own writing, because your brain will fill in words because you know what you want it to say. So
Right.
there's the cool reports, like one's called Echoes, and you
Hmm.
plug in and it'll just show when you're using the same word too much in close proximity, and you go, oh my god, I'm using the same word like 3 times on one page, and
Yeah.
you never catch it if you didn't have this report. So
Right. Oh yeah.
that's
Thanks to
great.
Pro Writing Aid, I discovered that I use the word just an absurd number of times. Like, it's such a weird, in my mind, it's such a weird word to overuse. I'm like, why am I using that word so much? But now I'm hyper aware of it. And I try and like avoid that word completely.
I
But
do too.
yeah,
I
it's great.
just very, like all these words, I don't use adverbs, right? And
Yep.
so my goal is 0 adverbs, and then of
Yep.
course they find their way into the book, but when I'm trying for 0, it's like a reasonable amount of adverbs, otherwise it's all over the place.
Yes. Yes. No, I agree. My God, I think we went to the same school of preparing or of novel writing.
Yeah, it's a school of making a bazillion mistakes. That's
Yes,
the
anytime I've ever done a talk on the whole writing process, which has been a while because COVID kind of messed all of that stuff up. I always tell them that listen, I am here to throw myself under the bus so that you don't make the mistakes that I made, and they're pretty appreciative of that because I made tons of them, and I own them, every time, but uh, you learn from them, so
I
that's
made
what makes
mistakes
them
all through
valuable.
the process. you know, from not just the writing or the, you know, what my developing a writing practice, but you know, querying agents and then dealing with agents and then finding publishers, like editing with, like I've made mistakes across the board with launches and with everything. So it's when people ask me, I tell them, you know, like I'm happy to share. I get people who contact me on LinkedIn all the time. They're like, oh, I was a former agent or police officer and I want to do this. And then I go through all the numbers and they're like, oh my God, like maybe, I'm like, no, but you have a story to tell it, but here's what you have to do. And the key is understanding that you just can't, oh, I have this great story. It doesn't work like that. You have to learn how to tell it. You have to learn what sells. You have to learn how to write it. Then you have to learn how to get it to the right people. And there's a lot to it. It really
you truly have to have a deep passion for it, and just that desire that borders on need to get your story out, to do this, and not think about the potential of dollar signs, because the potential is pretty small.
Yeah, you're not going to make anything on your book. I mean, it's just there are cases every year where somebody writes like a first book and makes a ton of money, but the reality is you're just not going to make much. You know, like I think I make like 30 cents on when someone buys something on Kindle Unlimited or something, and you know, and like the digital copies, I'm making like 70 cents, and I'm making like 250 on a hardcover, like, you know, because after your publisher, and then you know, you're spending money. I think I've actually lost money on my first book, like just because I've been advertising, trying to get people to know that it's out there and that it exists, because I'm acquiring readers. So it's like a startup company. I don't mind spending money to acquire readers, because once they read it, then they like my stuff, then they buy the next book. And I've heard the magic number is 6 books. Once you get to that, like 6 books, you tend to be able to start generating some income, because people read number 6 and go back and buy the rest.
They do. You're right. They do always say, you know, you should have a body of work if you're serious about making this, you know, in any sense of the word, your career or profession, or at least part of one of your careers or professions. You need to have a good body of work out there, so that people will keep coming back to you and have a reason, because a lot of people do. I do it too. If I find an author I like, I need to have everything that they've written. You know, I need to read all of their books once I read one. So, and I think a lot of readers are like that. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's a known quantity, right? You know, you know what to expect. You like the reader. You like the way they deliver it. They have good stories. Absolutely. I do that too, which is part of the problem, because that's what the publishers are pushing the same. Like if you look at the New York Times bestseller list, it's basically half of them are the same people that were on there 20 years ago. Like literally the same people, you know, so
same people.
Everyone else you're trying to break through, and there's something like 2.5 million ISBNs that are issued for new books every year. It's a ridiculous number, and that doesn't include like the Amazon self-published ASINs, right? So there's millions of books that are coming out every year. So to kind of rise above all that noise and say, hey, this one's actually good, you've got to get reviews, you got to get people to notice it, and it's it's hard enough with a big publisher, but I have I have a mid-sized publisher, I guess. It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've gone both routes. I've gone traditional publishing, small publishing house, and I wasn't happy with that experience. It turns out I'm a control freak. I didn't know that about myself until they changed my book covers on me, and I didn't like them, and they had the ultimate say in it, and so that didn't work well for me. And so, you know, I started up my own little publishing, you know, one person publishing company, and I do it. I'm a one-woman show, and it's not going to, you know, which means that it's not going to get far as readership unless I invest heavily in it, and still no return necessarily. But I like the control.
Well, you know, your concern about the covers justified. That's one of the main reasons people will buy a book. And a bad cover, they won't even pick it up. So you know, that's what people see. Then they have to look, the copy has to be good on it. They have to look at the back cover and go, oh, that sounds interesting. Like you have to have a nice hook, you know, and then they might open it up. And then if they see editorial reviews, they go, oh, well, Kirkus liked it. And, you know, there's trust them. And so, you know, I think when people are picking a publisher, you've got to look at the covers they do, because some of them do horrible, horrible covers, and it'll kill your sales. Like you literally won't get to sell the book.
Yep. Absolutely. That's an absolute fact. That's the actual case. It's a 6-book series, and they have the first 2. They've got it for a couple more years. I'm trying to get the rights, trying to get the rights back. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, and I knew as soon as I saw the covers, tried to persuade them otherwise, and I knew it was a bad fit, and
And that's normal, right? Like even in the big
yeah,
five, you generally have no say. Like you'll say it
right,
on the cover and they'll be like, well, that's too bad because even your like acquiring editor doesn't have any say. It's the
right,
marketing department that does it. They have a design
yes,
department, but the
mhm,
marketing drives everything, where your book is, how they're going to pitch it. The marketing
right,
department determines whether they're going to buy your book or not. If they say no,
yeah,
we don't know how to position this, and it doesn't matter how much your acquiring editor loved it. They're not going to get it.
right. Yeah, yeah, their exact response was I was very polite, of course. They had a gentle suggestion, and their response was, "We know what sells in this market, in this genre, so we're good. We've got this." And they were completely wrong.
Yeah, that was my next question. Well, did it? Because
Right. Yeah. No, no, they, their perception, the cover that they used was, it's like it's a small town saga, it's basically like a soap opera, um, romance genre, contemporary women's fiction, that lane, but it's not steamy. It's not, your typical heaving bosoms covers or anything like that, or stories, I should say. And the cover that they picked, it was a couple on there, and yeah, it just didn't fit. It didn't fit. It didn't give the essence of what was inside the book. So it was misleading. I tried telling them that. They put the blurb. This was the weirdest part for me. They put the blurb in first person, but the story's in third person. Thought that was weird. So, hard lesson learned. Hard lesson learned. I got a little
like
too excited.
like if you look at like a book like this, right? Like you have to
Yeah,
be able to tell the genre. You can kind of it's
right,
the way the font that they use here, the silhouette of the guy, you can see the capital right here, right?
right.
This is Georgetown, right? And so
Yep.
you have a feeling it's a thriller, and you can kind of get that. If you I've seen them that are completely misleading,
Right.
and you have to also it has to be kind of interesting, right? You have to look at it and
Mm-hmm.
you want to look at it. Like I picture when
Right.
I was a kid. What did you pick up when you were a kid? Like going through the
Mm-hmm.
library, I'd see like an adventure scene on a book. And I was actually
Right.
looking at some of my old books when I was a kid here, and I was looking at them the other day, and a lot of them have like revolutionary like war scenes and
Oh, yeah.
things that a young boy's interested in seeing.
Right.
And but that's it. It's the cover. Hey, so can I ask you, with
Yeah.
you have your own publishing house, so do you hire out editors? Do you have multiple levels of editing?
Yeah, I go through the whole thing. I do all the same things. I do the beta readers, the test it out with them first. And then once it goes through all of, I do usually do like about 6 rounds of edits myself. Then it goes to the beta readers. And I have they do different things. Like, I let them kind of do their own thing. I have one that likes to just look for grammatical errors, likes to look for things like that. Another likes to look for just the flow of the story. So I let them have, free reign with how they want to do that. Then when that's all done, I'll send it out to an editor. I actually like the editor that I used, or that the publishing company set me up with the books with them, and she has since gone off on her own. So I use her, and she's lovely. But yeah, same thing. It's you do all of the same things. It's coming out of your pocket, of course, but you also at the same time you keep more in your pocket.
A lot more, right? If you're
Yeah,
selling it digitally, you can get about up to 70% depending on how you
right,
price it, as opposed to, I get 20% of net, or you get 10% of gross depending on the
right.
contract. And that's not
Yeah,
that's not a huge number if you're selling, just a few thousand copies.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So yeah, that's what I do. I'll do, it depends. I was doing some hiring out for cover design for a couple books, couple few books, and then others I've been doing on my own. I got to get back to writing. It's been a little while. So when I do, I'll decide on the fly if I'll do the cover or somebody else will. If they can, I have the vision when I get the series back in my possession, then I already know what the covers are going to be. I can't wait. I can't wait. So that in that way, it's going to be like releasing a whole new series in a weird way.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And I've known some authors who've done that and who've done well, because
Hmm.
you only have to sell a fraction of the books to actually make more than through a traditional publisher if you're taking 70% of the profits yourself.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
I would really recommend going with someone who does good cover designs. Like you can get a
Yeah.
top of the line cover for $300 to $500.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you can spend $70, but you can also
Hmm.
spend just a few hundred. And since it's such an important part of the book, you know,
Right,
and like giving them some ideas about like what the feel for it or what you want or elements on it. Like my publisher's
right.
great. Like these Dave King is the guy from Black Rose
Mhm.
Writing, as the publisher who
Okay.
does the designs, and Reagan Rote's the guy who owns the company. They listen, you know, when I say, oh, I kind of want these elements, and they do it, but they do it better than I would have ever done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they do
Right.
little things. Like I don't know if you can see on this. There's there's a second set of like eyes up here, you know, behind
Oh
their
wow. Oh
face, you know,
yeah. Oh,
kind of
that's
hinting at
cool.
a problem. There we go.
Right. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so I think
awesome.
that's definitely worth the money. The one place I don't outsource is I'm like a publicist, which I
Hmm.
know they can be good, but all that I've heard are horror stories. Like I don't know
Really?
anyone like personally, and this is
Hmm.
anecdotal, so it's I know there's good publicists out there, but I've heard
Sure.
one person who spent because they'll charge you like 5 or 7 or 9 grand or 15 grand.
Yeah.
Whoever got their money back from what they did. So I
Mhm.
contacted a few. I was like, well, what do you do? And I was like, you
Right.
know, I can do that. Like
Yeah,
it's a
right?
pain in the neck, and I won't do it as well, but I can do it. I can pick up the
Right.
phone. I can write query letters and send them out to reviewers. I can do that, you know.
Right.
So that's where I saved my money, and then I spent all that money on Facebook ads.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I played around with Facebook ads on and off for a while. I wasn't seeing a return, which doesn't mean that the ads don't work. It means that I didn't really know what I was doing, basically.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think they do work, but you have to be able to pick your right audience who gets them,
right.
and you do A/B tests so you can see what works and what doesn't. And then you have to have the right art. So I have a great designer, Sarah Burr.
Mhm.
She's a really terrific designer who
Awesome.
does my ads. Yeah, Books to Bundles is her company. There's a plug.
Oh, nice.
She's really good. Yeah,
Hmm.
and so you know I'll do the ads, but then you also like I think I'm losing money on them like overall, but I
Right.
know it generates readers because I would like increase an ad sale and watch
Hmm.
my Amazon ranking go up that day. Like
Uh,
they do it
yeah.
hourly, you know. So I would have a
Right.
sale, and all of a sudden I'd see a bunch of sales, like dramatic, you know.
Yeah.
So I know they work if you get the right art and you in the right copy
Right.
and you have the right audience who's interested in that type of book.
Hmm. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I could keep you on here all day. We could just keep going all day. You cool with it? I wouldn't do that to you. So listen, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. We got to cover so much fun stuff. I'm just blown away. I have a feeling that this is going to end up being a two-part release. I'll probably release half and then release part two the following week, or maybe even just a few days later, because I'm impatient. I know I have no patience, and I want everything 5 minutes ago. So maybe I won't make anybody wait too long for the whole thing here.
Yeah, one on law enforcement, one on writing, right?
Right? Yeah, we might just split it right in half just like that. I think that's probably exactly what we're going to do. If you're cool with that, that's probably
Sure.
exactly what I'm going to do.
Whatever works. I love talking about this stuff, especially writing, because that is really solitary and
Oh,
it's
yes.
nice. You know, I'm lucky. I have. By the way, I have this critique group. It's called the Royal Writers Secret Society. Is
Oh,
that the
very
best name
cool.
you ever heard for a
That
critique
is the
group?
best name ever. Yeah. I feel like it needs to be a book,
Yeah, no, I've thought about it.
right?
They're terrific, and they got a couple best-selling authors in there, and that group has helped me bring my writing along so fast. You know, like
That's
if I had just
awesome.
been making those mistakes on my own, I'd be years behind where I am now.
That's so cool. Hey, does your wife's book, is she in pre-order yet or not yet? Has she had gotten
Not
to
yet,
that
but
phase?
soon. It comes out like March. I want to say like March 20th. Like so, it's
Okay.
coming out in March by by Bombardier Books, which is an imprint of Post Hill
Mhm.
Press, which is a really good publisher. And
Mhm.
they're doing edits now, so it'll be
Very
out
cool.
soon. But yeah, it's called The Secret Apparatus, and I mean it's going to be a huge splash. Like she's briefed hundreds of members of Congress. I wish we had time so I could tell you her story. This is amazing. But
Oh,
she's from Egypt, and she's basically she went from being banned in print in Egypt, like literally you go to jail if you mentioned her name in Egypt, to now they put her picture on the masthead of the
ah,
largest circulation newspaper in the Middle East, and
wow.
the president is basically quoting her when he does his speeches, and she's been getting calls from members of parliament and things.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's amazing. She's really been able to change the face of politics in the Middle East. It's an amazing story. But her stuff on the Brotherhood, she's going to
Mhm.
get flack from the right and the left because
Really?
everything. I mean, she's calling out the Brotherhood and this radical Islamic infiltration and what they're doing, and
Hmm.
then she's going contrary to sort of the orthodoxy in a lot of these think tanks. And I mean, she's been studying this stuff for like 25 years. She knows this stuff better than anybody. Since she was a teenager, she's been studying this stuff.
Wow. Oh yeah, Jeff, I need her on the show. I need
she's
her on the
amazing.
show.
Like she's amazing. She's done a lot of she's done, you know, everybody. She's been on Fox, and she's I mean, she's done everybody. So
yeah,
she's a
well,
really.
I don't know if she'll want to come on my little old show to see how I made myself sound sad and pathetic. And
no, it's a great show. And by the way, your audience will love her because I mean, she's all about, she's super rational, right? So everything that she does is fact driven. So when she says something, it's not like, oh, this is my opinion. She's like, no, this is from their own words, and here's the documents, and here's a link where you can hear it yourself. And you know, like I mean, she has almost 1,000 footnotes in this book. But it's crazy stuff. Like, this is the ammunition that everybody needs to fight radical Islam. Seriously, this is it. She's calling out the group that's behind all of it, that founded everyone from Hamas to Al Qaeda.
Wow. Oh, this is gonna be huge. I'm very excited for this. Yeah, absolutely. When the second, if you think of it, of course, I know it's like not, you know, the only thing you have going on in life to email me, but when she's ready with a pre-release, please send me some links so that I can share it and pre-order and do all that stuff too, because that sounds incredible.
Yeah, I definitely will. I think your audience will love her.
Absolutely. Terrific. All right, Jeffrey James Higgins, I got him on the show. Best day ever. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm probably going to harass you to come back again many times if you're willing.
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks for having me. What a great conversation. Police work and writing. That's a good day right there.
Oh, that's a great day right there. All right. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Thanks. Bye.
Take care.